pull a white shirt out of your laundry basket and hold it up to the window. Not the window over the sink where the light is soft and forgiving. The one where the afternoon sun comes through straight and honest. Now look at that shirt. If it is the color of fresh snow, you can set it right back down. And we have nothing to talk about today. But if it has gone that particular shade of dull, that gray-yellow tint that no amount of washing seems to fix. The kind of color that makes a white shirt look tired even when it is clean. Then stay right where you are, because what I am about to tell you is going to change the way you do laundry for the rest of your life. Most of us were handed the same answer when our whites started to go. Bleach. Pour it in, run the cycle, and hope for the best. The stores have a whole aisle of it. Bleach pens, bleach sprays, color-safe bleach, ultra-bright bleach, bleach with a fresh scent. So at least the damage smells pleasant, and it works for a little while. The shirt comes out looking brighter after the first wash, maybe even the second, but something happens over time that nobody prints on the label. And by the time you notice it, you have already bought 6 more bottles. The shirt is worse than when you started. Tell me what you are dealing with, and tell me where you are watching from. I read every single comment, and your answer might end up being the next thing I cover. Now, I want to be plain about something right away, because it matters more to me to be honest with you than to sound impressive. Everything costs somewhere between $2 and $5. And most of it is probably already sitting in your kitchen right now. There are 5 methods altogether, 5 specific things you are going to learn today, and each one does a different job on different kinds of stains and different kinds of yellowing. Some are for fresh stains you need to catch fast. Some are for the deep old yellowing that has built up over months of washing. Some work together in a sequence that will bring a shirt back from what you thought was the rag pile. One of these methods is going to surprise you, not because it is exotic or hard to find, because it is so plain and so cheap that it is almost embarrassing how well it works. And once you know why it works, you are going to wonder why you ever bought anything else. The women who taught me to keep a household were not gentle about laundry. My mother ran a farmhouse on a Blue Ridge Mountain homestead where work clothes got genuinely dirty. Garden dirt, wood smoke, the kind of grease that comes off a cast iron pan and lands right on the front of a white cotton shirt. Sunday whites were Sunday whites, and they stayed that way. Not because she had money to spend on products, but because she knew something about what soap and water actually do to fabric, and she knew how to work with it instead of against it. That knowledge came down from her mother and from the women in our hollow before that, and I have been using it for more than 50 years of keeping my own home. My name is Annie Hemingway. I grew up on an Appalachian homestead in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and the home remedies I share here are the ones I learned from the women who raised me, the ones they used because they had no other choice, and the ones that turned out to work better than anything the stores came up with later. That kind of knowledge deserves to keep being passed down. That is the whole reason I am here. If today is useful to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. There is a whole pantry shelf worth of these old methods, and I share a new one every week. One more thing before we get into the methods. Tell me in the comments, what is the stain that has given you the most trouble on white clothes? Grass? Cooking grease? That yellow ring around the collar that just will not quit? Tell me what you are dealing with, and tell me where you are watching from. I read every single comment, and your answer might end up being the next thing I cover. Now, I want to be plain about something right away, because it matters more to me to be honest with you than to sound impressive. None of what I am going to teach you today involves bleach, and that is not because bleach is the enemy. Bleach has its place. If you are sanitizing something, a cutting board, a bathroom surface, something that has come into contact with raw meat. Bleach is doing a job nothing else does quite as well. That is a real use, and I would not argue against it. But bleach is not a whitener, not in the way people use it on laundry, and not over the long run. What bleach actually does to cotton fabric is something more like the opposite, an understanding that one thing is what makes the difference between people who manage to keep their whites looking good and people who keep replacing them every season. That is where we are headed next, and it is the piece that makes everything else in today's lesson click into place. once you understand what has actually been happening. To your white clothes all these years, the methods I am going to show you will make complete and immediate sense, not as tricks, but as logic. To your white clothes all these years, the methods I am going to show you will make complete and immediate sense, not as tricks, but as logic. Is made up of long chains of cellulose. That is just the word for the natural material that gives plant fibers their strength. When you pour chlorine bleach onto cotton and run it through a hot wash cycle, the bleach does not simply lift the stain and leave the fiber alone. It breaks down those cellulose chains. It weakens them at the molecular level. And every single wash with bleach takes another small piece of the fiber's integrity away. You do not need to remember the word cellulose. What you need to remember is this: bleach is slowly dissolving your fabric while it cleans it. The shirt gets thinner, the weave gets looser, and thin, loose cotton does not reflect light the way tight, strong cotton does. What you are seeing when a white shirt goes gray-yellow after months of bleaching is not leftover dirt. It is damaged fabric catching light differently than it used to. The fiber itself has changed. Pouring more bleach onto it does not fix that. It makes it worse, a little bit at a time, until the shirt is genuinely too far gone. Not from stains, but from the cure. There is something else happening at the same time, and this part involves your detergent rather than the bleach. Modern laundry detergents, the ones designed for front loaders and high-efficiency machines especially, use less water and less agitation than the old top loader cycles did. That sounds fine, and for most colored clothes it is fine, but for white cotton it creates a problem: detergent residue. The soap does not fully rinse out. It stays in the fabric and it builds up over time. Optical brighteners. Those are the chemical additives that make white clothes look brilliant under store lighting. Those build up too. And when those residues sit in fabric through multiple wash cycles and get exposed to heat in the dryer, they oxidize. They turn yellow. So the very products designed to keep your whites bright are, over time, turning them the exact color you are trying to avoid. That is the problem in full. Damaged fiber plus trapped residue plus heat equals the gray-yellow shirt you are holding up to the window. The answer to both of those problems, the fiber damage and the residue buildup, is gentler chemistry and a bit of patience, and it costs almost nothing. Method 1, the baking soda hot water soak. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate, and what it does in water is raise the pH, make the water slightly alkaline. Alkaline water is better at breaking down grease and organic stains than plain water or even mildly acidic water. It also softens fabric without weakening the fibers the way bleach does. What that means practically is that soaking a white garment in a baking soda solution before it ever goes near the washing machine loosens the stain from the fiber before the wash cycle even begins. So the detergent does not have to work nearly as hard, and you do not need bleach to finish the job. Here is what you do. Fill a basin or a clean sink with the hottest water your tap will give you. For most American tap water that is somewhere around 120 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to steam a little when you pour it. To that water, add half a cup of baking soda and stir it until it dissolves. That is all. Half a cup to a full sink of hot water. A box of baking soda at the grocery store runs about $1, and a box will last you through many, many loads. Submerge the white garment completely and press it down so the whole thing is soaked through. Let it sit for at least 1 hour. If the garment is badly yellowed or has a stain that has been through the dryer already, and dryer heat is what truly sets a stain, it bonds it to the fiber in a way that makes it genuinely hard to shift. Let it soak for 3 hours. Some of the old farmhouse women in our hollow would leave a badly stained piece soaking overnight, and I have done the same thing many times with good results. After the soak, wring the garment out gently and put it straight into the washing machine. Wash it on the warmest setting the fabric label allows with your regular detergent, nothing extra. No bleach, definitely no bleach. The baking soda has already done the loosening work, and the wash cycle is just rinsing it away. Method 2, the white vinegar rinse. This is the step that most people skip, and it is the step that makes the difference between clothes that come out clean and clothes that come out bright. White distilled vinegar is mildly acidic, the opposite chemistry from the baking soda. And that is exactly the point. Your detergent is slightly alkaline. The residue it leaves behind in fabric is slightly alkaline. A vinegar rinse neutralizes that residue and strips it out of the fiber completely, leaving the cotton clean all the way through, not just on the surface. It also acts as a natural fabric softener, which means your whites come out feeling softer and looking smoother, and smooth flat fibers reflect light better than fibers that are rough and raised from repeated alkaline washing. Here is how you do it. When your wash cycle ends and the machine is ready to start the rinse cycle, add half a cup of plain white distilled vinegar to the fabric softener compartment, or pour it directly into the drum if your machine does not have one. That is it. Simple as that. Half a cup, just half a cup. A gallon of white vinegar at the grocery store costs about $3 and will last you the better part of a month of laundry. Do not worry about your clothes smelling like vinegar. They will not. I promise you that. The smell rinses away completely with the water, and what is left behind is fabric with no residue, no buildup, and no alkaline coating dulling the white. I want to be straight with you about what these first two methods will and will not do, because that matters more to me than overselling a result. The baking soda soak and the vinegar rinse are exceptional at handling fresh stains, light yellowing, and the kind of dullness that comes from detergent buildup. They will make a shirt that is mildly or moderately yellowed look genuinely clean and bright again. What they will not do on their own is fully reverse deep old yellowing that has built up over years of bleach use and heat damage. For that kind of yellowing, the kind that has really set into the fiber, you are going to need what comes next. And for fresh stains that happen fast and need to be dealt with before they set, there is a method that belongs earlier in the process than either of these. That is where the clothesline, a lemon, and a handful of plain salt come into the picture, and each one of those does something the washing machine alone simply cannot replicate. Pull a lemon off the tree, and you have got something the old homestead women understood long before anyone put it in a bottle and sold it for $8 at a specialty store. Lemon juice is citric acid, and citric acid does two things to white fabric that nothing in your laundry aisle can quite replicate. The first thing it does is break down mineral deposits, the iron and calcium that come in through hard tap water and settle into cotton fiber over time, dulling it from the inside out. The second thing it does is work alongside ultraviolet light from the sun to bleach fabric naturally, gently, and without destroying the fiber in the process. That second part is the piece most people never connect, and it is the reason the old clothesline method works better than it has any right to on paper. Here is the science in plain words. When citric acid sits on damp white fabric in direct sunlight, the ultraviolet rays activate it. The acid and the light work together to oxidize the compounds in the fabric that are causing the yellowing, the same way hydrogen peroxide works, but slower, gentler, and at a cost of almost nothing. The fiber is not weakened. The process does not strip color away aggressively. It simply reverses gradually the oxidation that caused the dullness in the first place. Method 3, lemon juice and sun drying. What you need is the juice of one lemon, fresh squeezed, not bottled, because bottled lemon juice has preservatives added that interfere with how the acid behaves on fabric, and enough water to dilute it into a spray or a rinse. Squeeze the lemon into a cup of cold water and stir it together. That solution costs you roughly 30 cents. After your garment has gone through the wash cycle, following the baking soda soak and the vinegar rinse if you have done those, wring it out, but do not put it in the dryer. Lay it flat or hang it on a line outside in direct sun. Spray or pour the lemon solution evenly across the fabric, making sure the whole surface is damp with it. Then leave it to dry. Let the sun do the work for 2 to 4 hours, turning the garment over halfway through so both sides get full sun exposure. What you will see when you bring it in is not a dramatic overnight transformation. It is a gradual brightening that becomes clearer after the garment dries fully and you look at it in good light. Do this 2 or 3 times across consecutive washes with a badly yellowed piece and the difference builds. My mother used this on my daddy's work shirts every spring. She would spend a week bringing them back from the winter's worth of washing, hanging them on the line behind the farmhouse on the first good sunny days of April. And by the end of that week, those shirts looked like they had barely been worn. If you do not have outdoor space or the weather is not cooperating, you can place the damp lemon-treated garment on a clean towel near a sunny window. It takes longer, a full day rather than 2 to 4 hours, but it does still work. The ultraviolet light comes through glass. It is weaker than direct outdoor sun, but it is not nothing. One honest note here, this method works best on natural fibers, particularly cotton and linen. On synthetic fabrics, polyester, nylon, fabric blends with a high synthetic content. The lemon and sun method has much less effect. The citric acid works on plant-based fiber chemistry, and synthetics simply do not respond the same way. If your white garment is a synthetic blend, the baking soda soak and vinegar rinse from the previous methods will still help, but the sun treatment will not add much. Method 4, salt pretreatment for fresh stains. Salt is the method that belongs at the very beginning, the moment the stain happens, not after it is dried and set. And the reason salt works at that stage is straightforward. It draws moisture out. Salt is hygroscopic, which just means it pulls liquid toward itself. When you pour coarse salt onto a fresh, wet stain on white fabric, it draws the staining liquid up and out of the fiber before it has a chance to bond with it. Once a stain dries, that bond forms, and getting it out requires a great deal more work. Salt catches it before the bond happens. The moment something lands on a white garment, coffee, red sauce, cooking grease, a drop of mustard, anything, cover it immediately with a generous pour of coarse salt. Plain table salt works, but coarse salt works faster because the larger crystals absorb more liquid. Pour it on thick enough that the whole stain is covered and then some. Press it gently with a clean, dry cloth to help the salt make contact with the stain, but do not rub. Rubbing pushes the stain deeper into the fiber. Press and then leave the salt to sit for 5 to 10 minutes. After the salt has drawn out what it can, brush it off cleanly and rinse the spot under cold water. Cold, not hot, because heat is what sets a stain permanently into fabric. Then treat the area with the baking soda soak before the garment goes into the wash. A container of coarse salt at the grocery store costs about $2. Keep it somewhere visible in the laundry room or near the kitchen, because the whole point of this method is speed. A stain you get to in the first 2 minutes is a stain you have an excellent chance of removing completely. A stain you notice 3 hours later, after it has dried and the garment has been folded and set aside, is a different problem entirely. Method 5, washing soda for deep set yellowing. Washing soda is the method most people have never heard of, and it is the one that does the heaviest lifting of everything covered today. It looks almost identical to baking soda. It is a white powder. It comes in a cardboard box. It sits on the same shelf at the hardware store or the grocery store, but it is a different chemical compound entirely, and it is considerably stronger. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. Washing soda is sodium carbonate. The difference is 1 carbon and 3 oxygen atoms, which sounds like chemistry class detail, but what it means practically is that washing soda has a much higher pH, it is significantly more alkaline than baking soda, and that extra alkalinity is what makes it capable of breaking down the kind of deep set-in yellowing that baking soda alone cannot fully touch. The grease that has worked its way into collar fibers over 2 years of wearing. The underarm yellowing from deodorant and perspiration that has gone through the dryer dozens of times. The overall gray cast that a white shirt develops when it has been washed in hard water for years, and nobody noticed the mineral buildup accumulating. You will find washing soda at most hardware stores and many grocery stores, usually near the laundry detergents or in the cleaning supplies section. Arm & Hammer makes it, and a box runs about $3 to $5. Do not confuse it with baking soda, and do not confuse it with borax. It is its own thing, and it is labeled washing soda. To use it, add half a cup directly to the drum of your washing machine along with your regular detergent. Do not use it as a pre-soak the way you would baking soda. Washing soda is strong enough that prolonged direct contact with fabric can, over repeated use, begin to weaken delicate fibers. One wash cycle with half a cup in the drum is the right amount. Use it on the warmest water setting the fabric allows. For the worst cases, shirts that have been yellowed for a long time and have been through repeated bleach cycles on top of it, do the baking soda soak first, then wash with the washing soda in the drum and the vinegar in the rinse cycle, then hang the garment in the sun with the lemon treatment. That full sequence, done 2 or 3 times across consecutive washes, will bring back whites that most people would have already thrown away. My mother kept a box of washing soda on the shelf above the wash basin for as long as I can remember. She called it her heavy wash powder, and she reached for it the way a carpenter reaches for a heavier hammer when the job calls for it. Not every time, but when the situation required it. She used it on my daddy's work overalls after a season of hard farm work, on the flour sack dish towels that got stained through a whole summer of canning, on the curtains that came down every fall for their yearly wash. The old farmhouse always had white curtains, and we always had plenty of white dish towels, white shirt fronts for Sunday, and they stayed that way year after year on washing soda and vinegar and a good stretch of October sun, not on bleach and not on anything that cost more than a few dollars at the feed store in town. What made her good at it was not cleverness. It was just that she understood what the problem actually was, and she chose the right tool for the specific job in front of her. Salt for a fresh spill, baking soda for a moderate soak, washing soda when the stain or the yellowing had settled in deep, lemon and sun when the fabric needed brightening from the outside in. None of it cost much. None of it required a trip to a specialty store, and none of it is a secret exactly. It is just knowledge that stopped being passed down when the detergent companies got good enough at advertising that people stopped thinking they needed to know it. The last piece of this is the one that ties it all together. And it is also the piece that tends to make people a little angry when they hear it plainly. Think about the laundry aisle for a moment. Really think about it, the length of it, the sheer number of products lined up on both sides, the bright packaging and the promises printed in bold letters on every label. She promised whiter whites for every load. She achieved brighter brights with every wash, lifts tough stains and handles every mess. It restores your clothes like new. There are detergents and boosters and pre-treaters and stain pens and color-safe bleaches and oxygen-activated powders and fabric brighteners and softeners and dryer sheets designed to work with the softeners. An average American family spends somewhere between $200 and $400 a year on laundry products alone, not counting the machine, not counting the water, not counting the electricity or gas to run the dryer. And their white shirts still go gray. That is not an accident. It is not a conspiracy either. I want to be clear about that because the truth is simpler and in some ways more uncomfortable than a conspiracy. The companies that make those products are not sitting in a room somewhere deciding to cheat you. They are simply solving for what sells, and what sells is the feeling of doing something. There was always a brand new product to try. They would advertise a brand new formula, a new reason to go back to the store. The old methods do not sell because you cannot put them in a bottle. You simply cannot trademark sodium carbonate. You cannot build a brand around half a cup of white vinegar and an afternoon of sunlight. There is no profit in the old way, and that is exactly why nobody is advertising it to you on television at 10 o'clock at night. The detergent companies also have a quiet interest in your whites not staying white forever. Not because they engineered the problem on purpose, but because a customer whose clothes keep wearing out and yellowing is a customer who keeps buying. A woman who knows how to bring a white shirt back from the edge of the rag pile with $1 worth of baking soda and a lemon is a woman who buys less. She's a woman who keeps her clothes longer. She finds that she replaces her clothes less often. She spends much less on products, and she is a great deal harder to sell to. My grandmother would have recognized that dynamic immediately. She did not have a word for it, but she understood it in her bones, that the people who sell you things have a natural interest in you not knowing what you already have. She kept her household running for 60 years on what she grew, what she rendered, what she mixed herself, and what she learned from the women before her. Not because she was suspicious of the modern world, because she had seen firsthand that the old way worked and nobody had ever shown her a good enough reason to stop. Now let me give you the habit, because knowing the methods is one thing, and building them into the way you actually do laundry is another. The mistake people make with any new laundry method is treating it as a rescue operation. They wait until the shirt is badly yellowed, pull it out in frustration, do an intensive treatment, and then go right back to their regular routine until the problem builds up again. That cycle will work, but it is the hard version. The easy version is building the methods into your regular wash before the problem has a chance to accumulate. Here is what a good white laundry habit looks like, week to week. Every time you wash whites, add half a cup of baking soda to the load along with your detergent. Not as a pre-soak every time, just added to the wash cycle as a matter of course. This keeps the low-level residue from building up in the fiber between deeper treatments, and it costs you almost nothing because you are using such a small amount. Every time you wash whites, add half a cup of white vinegar to the rinse cycle. You must do this every single time without exception. This is your baseline for the wash. These two things together, baking soda in the wash, vinegar in the rinse, will prevent the gradual dullness from taking hold in the first place. Once a month, or whenever you notice a garment starting to look less than bright, do the full hot water baking soda soak before the wash. Let it sit for at least 1 hour. Wash it with the vinegar rinse. If the weather is good and you have the time, hang it in the sun with the lemon treatment after. That monthly reset keeps the fibers clear and the whites genuinely white, not just clean. Reserve the washing soda for the hard jobs. Pull it out 2 or 3 times a year, or when a specific garment has gone heavily yellow and needs the stronger alkaline treatment to shift what has built up. Use it in the drum with your detergent. Follow it with the vinegar rinse, and if the garment has been really neglected, give it the sun treatment as well. In between those heavier washes, the regular baking soda and vinegar baseline is enough to keep things from getting to that point again. For fresh stains, the salt lives near the laundry or in the kitchen, and you use it the moment the stain happens. That is the whole rule for stains. Do it the moment it happens. Do not set the garment aside to deal with later. Do not blot at it with a damp cloth and hope for the best. Cover it with coarse salt immediately, press gently, wait 5 to 10 minutes, brush it off, rinse with cold water, and then the garment goes into the regular wash with the baking soda and vinegar routine. That sequence handles the overwhelming majority of fresh stains on white fabric completely. So here's what I want you to do this week. Pick up a box of baking soda and a gallon of white vinegar. You may already have both, and if you do, check that you have enough for several weeks of laundry. A gallon of vinegar and a medium box of baking soda together should cost you no more than $4 to $5. Next time you wash whites, put half a cup of baking soda in with the detergent and half a cup of vinegar in the rinse compartment. That is your starting point, and you will notice a difference after just one wash. If you have a garment that is already badly yellowed, start with the hot soak. Half a cup of baking soda in a full sink of the hottest water your tap produces, 1 to 3 hours depending on how bad the yellowing is, then into the wash with half a cup of washing soda in the drum and vinegar in the rinse. If the sun is out, give it the lemon treatment on the line after. Buy a box of washing soda. Arm & Hammer makes it. It is at most hardware stores and many grocery stores, and keep it alongside your regular detergent. Buy a bag of coarse salt and keep it visible. Squeeze a lemon into a cup of water and keep the solution in a small spray bottle near the laundry on wash day. That is the whole system. 5 methods, a handful of ingredients, and a little bit of consistency. Nothing in it costs more than $5. None of it requires a special trip to a specialty store. All of it works, not because it is clever, but because it is based on what fabric is actually made of and what actually damages it, rather than on what looks good on a label. If this is the kind of knowledge that is useful to you, go ahead and subscribe. There is a whole world of these old methods that the women in my family spent generations figuring out, and I share a new one every single week. Good home knowledge ought to be free, and it ought to keep moving forward. Tell me in the comments, do you have a white garment you thought was past saving? Tell me what happened to it and what you have already tried. I read every comment, and I want to know what you are working with. The next thing I want to show you is something that goes hand in hand with everything covered today. How to get rid of the musty smell that gets into towels and bed linens after too many washes. The kind of smell that does not go away no matter how much detergent you use. It is the same kind of problem, a buildup issue that the products you are already buying are actually making worse, and an old method that fixes it for almost nothing. That is coming up next. White clothes are worth keeping. Good fabric, cared for the right way, lasts decades. And a shirt that has been washed with patience and plain ingredients will outlast a dozen shirts that went through the bleach cycle until there was nothing left of them. The women who taught me knew that. They bought less because they kept what they had. That is a kind of freedom the detergent aisle will never sell you, and it is yours for the taking.